Well, hello there and welcome. My name is Kylie Patchett and I'm your host, and welcome to the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast. This show is all about sharing the real and raw stories from women who have undergone midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind them in patterns of staying stuck, small, and like their needs don't matter. You see, I believe that the years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage, a deep invitation after so many years of giving our time, attention, and energy to others to carve out the same time, energy, and attention in ourselves, in our health, our love, our connection, our vitality, our purpose, our real needs and deep desires. You know, those ones lying dormant underneath all the duty, responsibility, pushing, striving, and achieving of our 20s and 30s? You see, at this stage in our lives, we find ourselves shifting identity potentially, no longer caring as much what other people think, and left wondering why on earth we have not given ourselves permission to do life in the way we truly want to. In this show, I speak to the women brave enough to truth talk their own midlife shedding skin stories, and the healers and helpers who help them transition through these crossroads of change. This is the midlife magic you didn't even know you needed, and I am so freaking glad you found us. Let's dive in. Hey there, before we dive into this episode, I have something exciting to share with you, which is I have just thrown open the doors for the first time in about 3 months to my one-on-one midlife mentoring containers. You'll find all the details at kyliepatchett.com.au, which is linked on all the different places you'll find this podcast, so easy to find. And right on that page, you can book in a midlife magic call with me. That is a 30 minutes, completely free and obligation free space where you can share where you are now, some of the stories you want to share, and where you would deeply love to be. This is for women who have arrived at this point in their lives where they've got this, is this all there is feeling? And it's being met with a feeling of I have no more fucks to give and I have zero tolerance for bullshit which no longer serves me. So what I say about that is what a marvelous time to embrace what I like to call midlife metamorphosis. So if you're ready to shed skins, to heal old stories, to step into your power, your magnificence, and your true role of being creator and decider in this one precious life of yours, come feel into a midlife mentorship with me through an absolutely no obligation midlife magic call. All information at kyliepatchett.com.au. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Wild and Finally Fucking Free. Today I have an old Sunny Coast connection. Not that she's old, just that we've known each other for years. Bianca, Aiono, hello, how are you?
Oh, awesome. So stoked to be here, Patchy.
I know. We've just been chatting for half an hour, and we're like, we probably should just start recording because there's some good stuff coming out of this conversation. So let's dive in. So my history with you is I've known you for ages and ages from the Sunny Coast region, and I also used to train with you back in the days when you had a CrossFit-inspired, I think, what was it called? It was
Warrior Goddess Crusade.
Warrior, yes, Goddess. I was like a goddess and there was a warrior. I couldn't remember. So can you introduce your lovely self now, and let's dive into all of these juicy topics that we're just carrying on with.
Absolutely. So I would describe myself or introduce myself as, I guess, your 7-figure sales queen coach. So I turned my peak performance background as an elite athlete into sales confidence coaching. So I used to do a lot of body confidence coaching, and then I had 4 kids under the age of 3. way too many children, and so I used all that peak performance acumen into helping people, boost their sales conversions, raise their rates. But because I have a background as a personal trainer in health and wellness, a lot of it is really about transformational work. It's still about the health and wellness and helping people heal their relationship to sales, as well as healing sales system. So I'm pretty passionate about all that stuff.
Oh my goodness. I feel like there's so many. So first of all, for all of those playing along at home, yes, she did say 4 kids under 3. And before you do your head in trying to do the maths, that is 1 beautiful boy, Maverick, and triplets who are now 3.5. Is that right?
Correct.
Excellent. Now I'm going to embarrass myself because I can remember Hendrix and not the girl. No, Dakota, Indiana. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, me. Oh, look at me go. Beautiful. Excellent. So tell us more about, because to me, what you're really talking about is confidence and alignment in all of the different hats that you've worn. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt really blessed that, I was able to exit an industry and then enter a new one with the same amount of years dedicated to learning the expertise of that. So 20 years in health and fitness, 20 years in sales.
So good.
Yeah. And it really came about because I had, 3 newborns, and I finally realized, plus a 3-year-old,
yes.
And I finally realized what it was like for my clients, for like the everyday woman, where life just felt like it was a treadmill just going a little bit too fast. It's like you can kind of keep up, but you're just struggling to keep the pace. So a business mastermind friend, asked me to come do sales for her, and I really hit the ground running, and I was like, wow, this is my next evolution. And I was really grateful for it because I couldn't hold space for other women in what I was struggling with myself, right?
Yep. Oh my God, that makes so much sense to me, because we were just talking about my own business journey and similar kind of parallel, in that something happened in my personal life where I just couldn't hold space for people who were looking to transform around mindset and trauma, because that's what I was in myself. And I was just like, I don't have the space. I don't have the bandwidth. I'm trying to keep my own shit together. So what a blessing though, because as you say, and I really believe like there's the breadcrumbs thing towards your calling. Like there's a thread that always, threads through our lives, particularly when we look backwards in hindsight and join up the dots. Like I think that's Steve Jobs that says that, isn't it? So the sales end of things, I'm really interested to hear when you feel back into like your fitness end of things, when you're helping, like in the days when I used to train with you, do you see the same, not the same blocks, but a similar kind of barrier to women getting what they want? So women, do you work with just women in business or women and men?
I do work with some men, but I am lit up by women. And beautiful. Sales, it's quite funny because, I got fired from my first 3 jobs. Selling bread, selling Supre clothes, and selling something else, muffins. And I had to go get a job to help me go through uni, and it ended up being personal training. So personal training was one of my first loves.
Yes.
Then sales I was learning at the same time. That was a first love. And I met Pete, my first love, who became my friend. But all was the inception of that time around 20.
Yeah, beautiful. Pete. What a lovely man he is. So do you see similar barriers to women getting what they want, though, when you're thinking about a woman who's saying, I can't put myself first body/health-wise, and someone who is in their own business but is not making the sales that they want? Is there a parallel?
It absolutely is. And what the beauty is that weight loss is very much away from motivator. So I would find that clients would work with me to a certain part, and then I would see those same clients work in other containers that were more like helping them with their career and seeing them in a different space. And they were so much more motivated in a space where it was not just about their body. So I now get to work with people with those same, core wounds. Essentially, it's like I'm writing a book called Good Girls Don't Sell.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah. Well, that's really about those deep wounds that make us push back against anything. Well, essentially all the qualities that would make us a really confident saleswoman are all the qualities that society tells us is really unattractive in us. Attractive in men, but unattractive in women. So yeah, absolutely. I get to work with a much larger range of women. I get to work with them when they're relating to themselves in a more powerful way, not just as like I'm a frumpy housewife. They get to see themselves with a much greater vision. So our journey it's like there's more at stake, and the journey is longer and more fruitful. But yeah, the Good Girls Don't Sell actually came about when I was in a sales role and I was doing really well. And then it's this insidious nature with women, because women, you realize if somebody says, oh, she was pushy, or she made me sign up, or something, along the lines. And as an experienced service provider, that if you go back down to the root of that conversation, if you were to play that conversation back, you would know, Patchy, right? Like there's a difference between pushy and asking somebody and inviting them.
Inviting them
to see themselves as a vision that is greater than the vision that they hold for themselves.
Yes.
So I would never push somebody. I only ever ask them. I show them where they are, where they are currently on their pain island and where they want to be on their pleasure island. And I say, here's the boat. I've got the boat. There's no way I'm lugging your ass across this river. You have to step into this boat and be a willing participant, because I'm not the person going to do the work for you. So if somebody unpacks and says that they were made to be pushed on the boat or whatever, I call bullshit.
Yeah, I absolutely do.
Yeah, in this circumstance, I didn't have the CEO who was willing to overlook their own need to be perfection, their own good girl. So I had all these good girls sort of in and I didn't realize that's what it was. But it annihilated me in a deep, deep way, where I was like sobbing into voice messages because I was thinking, what have I really been accused of? And I thought, I've been accused of being pushy. What's so bad about being pushy? And it really set me in this like deep inquisition of, good girls aren't meant to be assertive. Good girls aren't allowed to be liked. Can't be unlikable. Good girls can't ask for what they want. Good girls have to allow others to, put others first. So, it's actually been really, good girls aren't allowed to make mistakes. It's been really expansive, difficult, but as I keep going through it for myself over the last couple of years, I'm at a peak of the mountain where I can give advice and give guidance so much more easily and quickly in those, relationships. So, it's been really cool the way it like translates within, if I'm working with sales teams. I worked with some ladies, a team just for 4 weeks, and it pushed their conversion ratio from 27% to 43%.
Holy jolly.
Yeah. There was an extra 200K just that month alone. And that was really just about confronting that inner good girl.
Yes.
Looking at those power dynamics between it.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. You are speaking my language. Actually, first of all, let's all just hold hands and say, repeat after me, fuck the good girl, because the good girl does not get what she wants. She's not honest. She doesn't speak her desires. She doesn't communicate. She does not, break the barriers that keep her small and stuck. So fuck that. Secondly, the other thing that you didn't mention, but really is the peak of the good girl. Good girls are not allowed to call bullshit on other people's stories of not being their full self. That is what it comes down to, right? So good girls are not allowed to call your bullshit on your stories of how you must stay small and stuck. So when people say, oh, you pushed me into sales, because I've actually had this a couple of times, because I get so fucking excited about someone's potential that I'm very aware that I need to be, what's the right word? Very self-aware and responsible in not shining my light too bright in a sales conversation, because I know if I turned that light on, I would have every single person say yes 100% of the time, right? So you have to be very aware of that. But also there's a line when someone says you push them, what they're really saying is you can see my potential more than what I can.
Absolutely.
And I believed you in the sales call, but now I've gotten off the phone and my brain is telling me all the fucking ways that that's not true for me. So, yeah. Anyway, now that I've got that off my chest, I love this conversation, because I feel like in my clients, same thing. Good girls, good girls don't stop over-giving, over-serving. They don't speak their mind. They don't shed skins, because one of the good girl things, would you agree, is like I play the role. And so therefore, in a way, I'm kind of stuck in time in this role. And it's often a role we've, been taught as little kids. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And what I noticed in the dynamics of this business was that they actually wanted me, what I kind of unpacked, they wanted me to go in and like be the good girl, be that shining light, and to speak a whole bunch of like lift them up. And it was so funny, because when I really realized that, I was like, I don't even do that for myself.
Yeah.
Why would I do that for you? And so what happened was the change in the frequency from the CEO and their marketing style, which was all about really, I feel like it's blowing smoke on people's butts, but different things work for different people, right? So if they didn't feel that same carrier energy from me, because I'm like, no, you have to do some work. No, you have to show me why it's too much. You have to be responsible. Anything else, I think what happens is it feels like the curtain has been pulled back on the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not sustainable, right? If you set up that power dynamic where you have all the answers, particularly as a coach, and it's like calling bullshit on the whole coaching industry, if this is the way that you coach, you do not have someone else's fucking answers. There is no magical formula. There is no one size fits all advice that you can give people. So please, can we stop that? Please, can we, as coaches, mentors, guides, whoever you are, that's a helper and a healer, make sure that what you're actually doing is helping the person come home to their own power and their own intuition and their own gifts. Please,
yes, and
God.
and it did all blow up. Like I made an exit, a swift exit, and the energy mismatch still had to get paid back. The vortex of that still had to get paid back, and that's a price that the CEO has to pay in their physical body, in their personal lives. It's something the business has to pay back, and it's all in the middle of COVID. So so everything is getting thrown. And I just really, that's why alignment, you said alignment, integrity is a big part that I talk about. And congruence is something you and I have spoken a lot about as well.
Yeah.
And it's like integrity, not just from a place of being moral and being in your values and leading with your good ethics. It's actually integrity in that it has really strong foundations.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
If you come in and it's good girls trying to sell to good girls and bond over their trauma and trying to, be this projection of each other, you are just building a house of straw instead of a house of bricks.
Yes, and going back to the conversation we had before we started recording, and, I can very honestly say now in hindsight, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, my first iteration of business, I started off doing the very thing that I was called to do, and then I got off track, just starting to offer like business coaching and stuff, which I do in the corporate world, and I have a certain skill set in, but didn't light me up. And so for me, that was very out of integrity. So it took so much energy for me to do that work because it wasn't who I actually was. It wasn't what I'm called to do. It wasn't my purpose. It didn't feel light. And so the thing that I think the good girl thing, if you're listening and you're like, it kind of sounds like me, it's like, it's exhausting and it's not sustainable. And let me tell you, if you haven't got to perimenopause yet, when you get to the nexus of I have zero fucks to give, no fucking energy, and a zero bullshit meter, the good girl is the first thing that will be challenged. It's like you will be called to account. Like you're saying, there's a cost, right? You have to pay back the cost.
Yeah. And I love that no fucks to be given and the zero bullshit meter, because I still get approached to do sales roles now. And what I find is that because I can use these tools that I have now with kinesiology, mode, spiritual connection, and I actually can test in and tune in with the maps and models that I've created, where I can see where somebody still hasn't quite refined their offer. They're not quite creating incredible results on a consistent way. And so I'm yet to discover something that I'm willing to enter into. And so that's why I talk about sovereign sales, because it stops with me at all ends. And it allows me to sustain a family of 4 kids. Like I don't have any capacity for other people's bullshits. It's like, it's like, get off my tits, all right?
Exactly, literally. Be gone with you. Oh my God, it's so much gold in here. So let's talk about, I want to pull in your heritage, because you are a very proud Pasifika-Maori heritage woman. I've always felt that's been a huge part of your identity, that your culture was very important to you. And it also, for me, fits so well with this, fierce warrior goddess brand that you had. Can you tell me, you said to me before that you had embraced indigenous culture in shamanic sales consulting. So I'm guessing that that's the sovereign sales piece. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's kind of unfolded for you in the last few years?
So I always knew I had Samoan heritage, but the Christian missionaries, basically stole my culture from it.
Yep.
Yeah, with colonization. And so it was actually when I did my DNA a couple of years ago that it helped me piece together a bunch of the, I didn't realize I had Maori DNA, I had Tongan, I have Hawaiian, and it even goes back to Mexico, Native American.
Cool.
A greater ancestral viewpoint. And it was part of what I'm talking about in terms of one of the, like, part of living in integrity, being in integrity and living in congruence. And it's like that ripple, that the stone that you throw into the river and what ripples out. So really understanding there is this piece of Modi order, which is really about the vitality and the aliveness. It's the animism that you see, where you see God in plants.
Everything, nature.
Everything, that's right. And so then there is so that's the Modi that you feel when you feel that aliveness. Mana, and maybe if you've watched Once Were Warriors, Mana is the thing that she talks about to Jake Heke. I
have not watched. I'm not a big movie person.
It's a very powerful speech, but Mana is all about your own authority, your respect, your power in the world. And when you're living, it's like living at cause when you have that channel, that conduit of Modi, and you're really feeling your own power in Mana. And if you know that Ho'oponopono practice.
Yes, I love.
So living Pono is about living at righteousness. It's like living in harmony with everything around you. And so what I really was able to put words and find the indigenous words to what I always felt, where it's like, if I have this little splinter of integrity where I'm like, that doesn't feel right. If there's any way that I'm creating a projection or I'm believing a projection from somebody else, that splinter of integrity creates a chasm. And the ripple effect that it has further down the line, like you've got a degree off at the start and you're 100 miles off down the road.
Yes.
And that's the big split that happens. That's the big loss that happens, the damage, the loss of relationships, the loss of the hurt that you create. So it's just so important for me to be an example of that mana, of being a conduit of that Modi. And I really feel like being a conduit is like having the openness to your own divinity, your own higher self-wisdom, and then grounding into this earthly phase of earthly sphere that we're, or container, meat bag that we're sitting in.
I just had another interview where I was talking about the skin suit.
Exactly. And allowing our values radiate out. And what I found from being an athlete, I represent Australia in 6 different sports. So much of that was achievement that came from self-rejection, from trying to impress my daddy who thought I was great anyway. So what was the point of that? But what I've really found is that when you are in this state of alignment and congruence and channeling your mana and the expression of your mana and your Modi, then results happen in your wake. That's like a manifestation wake. So you're like on a speedboat and you're just going forward, living life, being who you are, just taking the next obvious step. And in your wake are all these achievements that happen by, just as a byproduct of who you are. So I guess that's also the graduation, the evolution of all the work that I did in my body confidence, is like it now had a greater application within a wider context of not just me, but also my community and, much wider community.
Yeah. Oh my God. So a couple of things that I want to really tease out of that. So first of all, when you say about a splinter in your integrity, I'm going to bring that forward because it is really those things that I have definitely in previous years in my life kind of allowed the splinters to occur, thinking that they're tiny, but they do take you off track so wildly. Like if you think about, the 1 degree that then adds up and adds up and adds up. But also something that was popping into my head as you're saying that is, to me, that is all the ways that you dissolve or diminish or actually disperse is the word I want to use, your own power. So you're putting pieces of yourself where they don't belong, basically. That's kind of how it feels to me. And again, coming back to, there's a cost to pay for that. So that's the pain, that's the, dodgy relationships, the poor decisions, whatever. But also the manifestation wake, I absolutely love that, because our mutual friend, Linda Ireland, I just interviewed her a couple of days ago, and she said exactly the same thing. She's saying all that she does is tap in and do the next step. So there's no struggle or strain or strive, which is very different to what you're saying in terms of that. I don't know, I guess being an elite athlete, you could say that that's not struggle and strive. It's more sort of channeling your power towards something.
Yeah.
But really, do you feel like it is struggle and strive? Like it's not actually?
Yes.
Better question. Does being an elite athlete feel to you like it can still have that manifestation wake attached to it, or is it a very different energy?
Oh, no, it's definitely a manifestation wake. But in order, like, I destroyed my elite athlete career when I did my NLP certification. I destroyed it. And friends would see me. They'd be like, you used to be the most competitive person in the box, and now all you're doing is lying around on a roller doing interpretive dance. And I said,
yeah.
I said, yeah, because I'm awesome. So why try harder?
Yes. Okay. I had a similar experience in my NLP certification. That's so funny. This is where I actually wanted to go next. So when I feel into your energy, I've always felt like that fierce, definitely warrior spirit, definitely very competitive. I wouldn't have necessarily used the word masculine, but you did use the word masculine before. And I'm interested if you're happy to go there in the journey from elite athlete and what you're saying about self-rejection towards wanting to have a family and having to change that relationship.
Yeah, for sure. So when I think about competitiveness, it has to come from a lack, like a tribal identity. It's like it's a lack of resources somewhere. Whereas, competitiveness for sport is just manufactured. So you're really trying to get accolades. What do? You get a trophy. You get people that you're great. You get, awards and sponsorships. But it's really, really hard. So I can't, like, once I had a higher level of awareness, I'm like, if I loved myself, would I be doing 100 burpees in 8 minutes right now? No.
Oh, no. That is a great question.
Well, it became very obvious very quickly. But, I represented Australia I competed pancakes for swimming, went to Youth Olympics for beach volleyball, college scholarship for indoor volleyball, javelin, and CrossFit and body sculpting. So it was all really driven by like making myself feel bad for where I was and striving towards
something different. Yeah.
Striving towards something that would make everything better. And I was very, very good at that.
Let's talk about that concept, because I feel like that's, the human experience, unless you go through, some sort of spiritual or healing awakening where you realize that actually your nature is to just be, beautifully supported.
Everything around you is manipulating to tell you what you have isn't enough. And then you've got the good girl, the ego inside you who wants to want more than it wants to have. Yeah. So it's very easy to get confused between those.
Yeah.
But living at cause, living in harmony with nature, not taking more than you need, you shift that consciousness, so it just doesn't really make sense to slaughter yourself in that way.
Yeah.
And, I think there are some people whose bodies just love and adore that to a certain time in their life, and then they have to reassess because it stops feeling good. So I did really crave really heavy weights, and I craved that feeling. And I actually trained for a whole year to go to CrossFit Regionals. That was my big year-long campaign. And then I went to my beautiful psychic, and she said something about having babies. I was like, no, I've got too many goals. And she was like, well, if you wait too long, you probably won't have them then. And I was like, what? And nobody had ever tried to take that away from me before. What? And so I kind of ended up getting to this point where I was 32, and I thought, you know what? I would rather be a mum. Felt like something was missing from my life.
Yeah.
Much to the devastation of my coach. And then, of course, I did the best. Once I let the goal go, I did the best, and I ranked like top 10 in the country. So I almost qualified once I quit, which was hilarious.
There's a lesson there too, isn't there?
I know. I was like getting quite scared for a second then. I thought, oh, gosh, I should have quit a long time ago, and then I would have already been there. But just then trying to become a mum, and I did the sets and the reps patchy, and the things weren't working. I did all the set, everything. It was the first thing I had never been able to force my body to do, was to fall pregnant. And so So it was a year of like trying by yourself, and then really realizing that, yes, it's the masculine energy of the striving and all the androgens, all the masculine stress hormones from putting my body under such enormous pressure.
Huge stress. Yeah.
And I never had a regular cycle, and that was a good thing, because it was convenient, but not realizing that I was completely out of whack. So funnily enough, I had a personal training client who happens to be one of the top IVF doctors in the country.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so I kind of got swept up, and I just sort of said, hey, I haven't fallen pregnant in a year. And then they're like, oh, well, you've got unexplained infertility, come on in. And so I actually got caught up in the scientific route where, they did a laparoscopy, and they did a hysteroscopy and all these different things. And they're like, well, there's no scientific reason why you haven't fallen pregnant, so you just have unexplained infertility. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not how I would have put it. But it was a whole nother year of like surrender, that I had to be like, oh my God, obviously you can't force this. This is like, it's like the more it's stripped away of the striving, and the more I contracted within, the more that yearning to be a mum was so overwhelming. And the universe was throwing me up these like experiences where I had a client who had fallen pregnant and didn't want to be, and I was having to coach her on why she didn't want to be pregnant. And I was desperately wanting and trying to be a mum. So I ended up I did 4 rounds of IUI, intrauterine insemination. It was all about ovulation induction, and you having all these drugs and all this stuff. And again, you can't force that stuff. 4 cycles over 14 months, 1 miscarriage. Finally, I gave up and said, obviously you can't force this.
Yeah.
I've made my peace that I won't be a mum. And then what do you know?
Again, when you surrender the goal.
And you know what? I tried that too. I was like, hey, universe, I'm giving up now.
Yes.
I'm quitting.
But my body and my energy is saying something different.
And, it was really just that humility of going, shit, this is like, it's what will be, will be. And, the next month I fell pregnant with Maverick. So that was a huge lesson in surrender. And when it came back around again, fortunately I'd learned, like my period came back around maybe 2 years later or something like that, a year and a half later. And I went back to the same guy, and I thought that it would just be like a wham bam, the drugs, the routine, like let's just set me up. And no, it still took another 14 months, another 4 cycles, another miscarriage. And fortunately, this time I was like, okay, I said to Pete once, I was like, I'm really sorry I haven't succeeded. I'm really sorry that I haven't fallen pregnant, and I haven't gotten a baby, a sibling for Maverick.
Yeah.
And he's not a man of a lot of words, but he stopped for a minute, and he looked to the left and the right, and he goes, perfection takes time.
Oh.
He said, no.
We all need a Pete.
Bless him. So from there, I was like, okay, if it's not this cycle that I create a sibling for Maverick, it'll be next cycle. If it's not this one, it'll be the next one. And fortunately, it was. I said to the doctor, hey, listen, remember last time that I had 4 follicles and then 1 took? Just make that happen again. And it's totally a luck of the draw, but it actually happened. And when it happened with Maverick, he had to bring me into the room and say, hey, you've got 4 follicles. If it becomes a multiple pregnancy, you have to be available you have to consider a selective termination.
Yeah.
There's too many kids. And I had to go out and, speak to that that mutual mentor that we were talking about earlier.
Oh, bless.
Philosophical conversation around when does life start. But back then I was thinking I was choosing between no babies and 1 baby. For this pregnancy, he just never reviewed that conversation with me. So I was super sick, and I think the day before my pregnancy, like my period was due, I took a test, And normally it takes 3 minutes for those tests to come up, but it created a positive before I even got off the toilet. Yeah, and it said 2 to 3 weeks pregnant, and I was only a day early, like I was wasn't even late. And they got the results back, and the miscarriage I'd had before, the progesterone was at 31. This time it was at 106.
Jeez.
So he knew that there was probably going to be multiples, and I had to go in for, like, I was so sick, and I had to go into the office, and I destroyed their bathroom, just like at both ends, everywhere.
The joys.
And then, yeah, they brought me into the room, and when I first saw, I was like, how many was that? He took it out straight away, took it off the monitor straight away. And he goes, yeah, that was 3. That was 3 stacks. So I immediately thought that, oh, my God, he's going to make me, like, selectively terminate one.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so we had to have all that, have this conversation. Pete was freaked the F out, I thought one would miscarry. I thought all those things might happen. But, my darling Pete, we came back 2 weeks later, and they were all measuring perfectly. Their little hearts were beating so well. And then he goes, are you going to continue on with the pregnancy? Are you going to, selectively terminate any? And I said, yes. And then he said, are you sure? No questions? I said, Pete, do you have any questions? And Pete was just like, nah. We're in it. So then the doctor again tell us all about the stats and how 150 out of every 800 or every 1,000 will die and have mental retardation and physical retardation, and 100% of preterm labor. And he said to me, and I was like, I don't care, I just have to do it. And he said, well, you'll need a full-time carer for Maverick. You won't be able to do it. You'll be housebound. It's possible for you to have a vaginal birth, but you'll destroy your body. And honestly, Patchy, it's like, makes me emotional.
Me too.
I was just like, whatever these little humans need from me, I will sacrifice my body for them.
Yep.
They can have it. So it's like this thing of, pushing my body to the extreme and the masculine, and then I was pushing my body to the extreme trust and extreme like I had 15 pounds of baby in me. Like I still have a huge diastasis recti. I delivered them in 25 minutes. I got the hospital record.
I remember when I was like watching on socials. We weren't connected in person anymore, but watching on socials, and I'm like, fuck me, when are these babies coming? You are enormous. And I was just like, if anyone can fucking push her body to the limit of delivering, because you were at term or pretty close to term.
Yeah, I got to 34 weeks. Basically, I had a massage in the lead up to it, and it pushed all the fluid around my body. So it was really hard to breathe. So I was kind of having these like,
yeah. Okay, not good.
And I probably could have held on for 1 more week, but it was, I had friends come over, and those friends where there are some friends that ask how you are, and you go, yeah, I'm good, I'm chilling. And then there are some friends who ask, how are you? And they're actually strong enough to hold you.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I just started crying. So
I don't know
they induced me. Yeah, they induced me, and then I had an amazing. That was really hard. The inducing was the worst part, but the labour was. They gave me epidural first thing. I had a 9 to 5 to suit the doctors, I guess, and then pushed them out. And that was our best gender reveal of like I got my first girl, and then I got another girl, and then I got a boy.
I forgot that you didn't know the gender too. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was just like this. Yeah, if anyone can do it, you can. And oh my God, this is not in judgment of anyone who's ever chosen to terminate, not terminate, whatever. That's not what this conversation is about. I just see you with Mav and the triplets, and I think you were always meant to be together, right? Like, how could it be any other way? So I don't know.
Yeah, and like the heritage part is that, like, 20 years ago when I first started personal training, my big brother mentor guy, he was Maori and had Ngāi Tahu tattoos, and I loved them. He took me to New Zealand, and he taught me all about the Ngāi Tahu tribe, and I just felt this like connection and longing in the way that I didn't necessarily have or hadn't explored yet. But I didn't have any of that DNA. I ended up going back from that trip and meeting one of, that friend's friend of his friends, which was Pete, and he lived out in Kilcoy, and he actually is descended from that same tribe, Ngaitahu tribe.
Oh, wow.
So I actually, 20 years later, from standing on that rock of not knowing, but those were my ancestors and the ancestors of my grandchildren that were calling me in. So I've given birth to descendants of, the chiefs who signed the Treaty of Waitangi, and I haven't even met their father yet.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's just like spins me out that, the way that I was blessed. But what I did realize is, that whole manifestation week,
yes,
I really, really pulled out all the stops with my manifestation techniques, right? I went home from those appointments and I was like, come on down, babies, because I didn't want to be 40 and pregnant. So I wanted this to be my last pregnancy. I was So I was like, come on down, babies, and I was thinking about the babies would come in and then the sperm would meet the egg, and I was visualizing it. But I never specified that I meant two. I meant two. I never said it. So I feel
so funny.
I feel like it was a bit like Oprah, like you get a sperm.
Yes.
You get a sperm and you get a sperm.
Oh my God. It's so funny. And that's such a typical manifestation thing, right? Ask for what you really want.
Yeah.
I always get not on the same level at all, but the similar sort of thing, the picking the word for the year. I feel like every time I pick my word for the year, it freaking turns up in ways that I just did not expect that would go with that word. Oh, dear, it's so funny. Oh my goodness, it's such a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that with us, because there's so many points in time that you've spoken about that I feel like they're, like I was saying before, like those threads, like you look back
yes.
what you've gone through and you're just like, oh, yep, this is all meant, like these are the dots that are forming the picture of my life and how it was meant to be all along, which is just a beautiful thing to witness. Absolutely beautiful thing to witness. I'm interested in, you said about your NLP certification and how that was kind of a point in time where it kind of broke down some ways that you thought that you needed to be in the world. And I know you've gone on to add things like kinesiology, and you were talking about ayahuasca before we started recording. So do you want to talk a bit about other, healing modalities or happenings that have led you to where you are now?
Yeah. Well, I think, what I took from the masculine and the feminine is that, and I think it's why I work with sensitive men, but predominantly women, is because how can you ignore that pendulum? How can you ignore the huge weight of those decisions? It's kind of like my mum says, you can never rush a newborn out the door. You can't rush the gestation period. You need that 9 months. And I do feel like sometimes there are, I've got plenty of peers who are making it, multiple 7 figures, multiple 8 figures sometimes. And I know sometimes there are questions where I think, why aren't you further along in business the way, like I would be? And when they say that, what I know is that they are ignoring these parts. They are ignoring these vast chasms of lack and of distress, and probably often in the women relationships in their lives. So it's this part that, I might sort of point out, there's a splinter there, and they'll be like, oh no, that's fine, I'll just keep on running.
We're going to ignore that splinter. We're going to smile and we're just going to ignore it.
And then I find out, also, did you know that I was going through suicidal thoughts at that time? Public information that people are going through and share. But it's like, I think the reverence of the work that you do, which is why I treat my work as very transformational and healing, because I'm healing people's relationships to sales who go out there and heal other people. So absolutely. My biggest mission is to help people who have healing skills, who have got the greatest skills, but maybe aren't the best marketers, and also know the weight of, of not being in integrity, and how can I get them in front of people who need their help the most, so that the people who need their help aren't just buying the quick fixes and buying from the charlatans and buying the snake oil stuff.
And let's pull out from the cupboard something that, well, I don't know, I'd be interested to see if you agree with this, but I have been and I have met and I have worked with many healers and helpers that, because of the fact that they feel that a healer / helper / yoga person / whatever, like put the wellness professional in there, whatever sort of helping that you do, it's not okay to ask for money or receive for that gift. And it's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, why? Then there's not an exchange. You're diminishing your value. So then you cannot be as transformative as what you could be if you were stepping in your full power.
So I talk about that as the overgiving savior archetype, the master archetype in there, but it's the part of us that, from the witch wound, that keeps us safe, because if we didn't accept money for our gifts, then we weren't really practicing it, and then we weren't going to get hung. So there's a large part of that in there, but there is also, when I put my other people's needs ahead of my own, then I'm more valuable. So there's a little bit of spiritual bypassing in that. Yep. And there's one more, I forget. But it's quite insidious. It keeps us safe. It keeps women safe to do that. Sorry, we're going to say something?
No, I was going to say, while you're thinking about the other archetype, just asking for a friend, do you have a recovering overgiver savior archetype button? Because that is totally, And I really, really, as you're saying, witch wound, like I am going through a process for myself where I'm realizing that I'm being called to look at generations of wisdom that I have not looked at, not gone down the track. And I'm like, you're actually saying that there's magic / witchery in you and your line that you're stopping from expressing. And I'm like, what the fuck's that about? And I'm like, totally to do with stepping in your full power.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting goosebumps all over.
Me too. I'm like, ooh.
Look, I think the plant medicine, sitting with ayahuasca, sitting with peyote, having the privilege of that has been a large part of what's awakened me to my own spiritual gifts that I always wished for. And now I have, I've met my ancestral guides, that tap me on the shoulder and surprised me. I've tapped into, the ancient wisdom of even thinking about the separation between those who saw God in nature and those who saw God in the church.
Yes.
And so there's an undeniability there that when you've had those experiences, that's the blue pill or the red pill. Like, you can't go back from that. It's a gong that's rung that you can never unring. So that really feeds into all the work that I do. Part of that is the great reverence for, Mother Earth, Father Sky, the world around us, and seeing ourselves as, as a part of that, not the greater hierarchy, not the one that can, just use resources at our own disposal. So kinesiology and kinesiology helps me with my mapping, and it helps me target exactly what emotions in what part of the sales process, in what part of your business are holding you back, so that you come to be a clear conduit, so that you're just you're standing in the truth of who you've come here to be and who you've come here to serve, and you package price position
as a result of that.
You do all that in that same alignment, so that you're I feel like there's a intersection between purpose and truth. That is harmony. That harmony is the integrity and the magnetism that draws in just an effortless flow with that your soul mission and your soul match clients.
I as you're talking about kinesiology being the mapping end of things, I've got this vision of how all modern day cars, you don't look under the hood like you used to. You plug them in and run a diagnostic sort of thing. That's what it feels like to me. It's like, show me where these things are not working in harmony. Where's the block? Where's the the clearance sort of thing. Sorry, I just want to go back to the plant medicine for a second, because I'm interested in the experiences that you've had. So, because you said something along the lines of, I wanted the spiritual gifts, like I wanted them, but I didn't think I had them. How does that change the way that you show up as like a parent, a friend, like relationship wise? What does that shift? Like, we've talked about business, which I'm really interested in, but there's something tugging at me to ask about, particularly with your kids, how that changes the way you relate to them.
I think there's practical things, the way that you treat your food, the way that you recycle or try not to waste food, and you take less time. I think it's also in that unwillingness to sacrifice. It's like treating things outside of. What I feel like Western society does is that they honour that their culture is, our culture in Western society is honouring celebrityism, worship celebrityism, and consumerism and capitalism and meritocracy.
Yep.
So it's like, how much can you make and how good are you in terms of somebody else?
Yep.
And tribalism puts us back into a place of just one part of everything. So I can't necessarily say that I'm a super zen triplet mum.
I'm not expecting you to be, for God's sake. That would be ridiculous.
There's a different level of the strategy with which I guide my family through, and the things that I'm compromised and the things that I'm not. I think in terms of relationships, what I've probably noticed is that I have some like really deeply committed female relationships that are, north, south, and east and west for me.
Yeah.
And I guess the ones, and I guess this is true for anything, but it's like, if you're not willing to engage with me at that level of like realness and authenticity, I just don't have time for it,
No, don't have the capacity. Yep.
And it's like we're either going deep or we don't go there at all. And sometimes people are like wondering, where have I gone? And I'm like, well, we just don't get to engage on that level, that surface level. But I think really, Mum would probably say I've got plants everywhere. I've got my tattoos.
Yes.
I'm more passionate and advocate for diversity and inclusivity. I'm less willing to, I've got that zero tolerance factor, less willing to, just tolerate the splinters. And sometimes I'm sure people might think, what the fuck is she going on about? It's like not a big deal. But I know that little splinter is the thing that's going to cost them a lot in the long term. So if they're willing to stop and listen, then I'll serve that up on a platter for them.
Yeah, I'm taking the splinters out into my life. That's really, really resonated with me today. And I think when you're talking about the difference between like Western society and tribalism, to me, it is very similar to what you're saying, going back to when you're very, very striving oriented. And so it was all in one direction and all for the, I don't know, like for achievement, for getting more, for improving, etc. And to me, the difference between that and what you're saying about tribalism is, if everything is connected, then everything must stay in balance by definition. So therefore, if you are striving, there needs to be equal and opposite surrender, or, so if you're giving, you're taking. So it's very, like, it's kind of the same pattern that you're talking about being very, very masculine and then being very, very feminine, now integrating both.
Yeah. And to be an athlete, you need to be super self-focused. You don't have the luxury of
being connected. Yeah.
Of being connected. No, that's actually the more isolated you are, the more arrogant, the more self-serving you are, the better, the more you'll succeed. So it rewards that behavior, as I'm sure it does, in consumerism as well, and capitalism.
Yeah, of course. It's all separation.
Yes. And somebody said, there's a great meme, and they say, a colonized mind will hear ours and think possession, think take, whereas a decolonized mind will hear ours and think shared, community, tribe. And I guess that's the shift that happens.
Oh, so much freaking gold in that. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let's talk about where we can find you. You and I could talk for 3 more hours, and I'm sure we probably will.
But into that, yeah.
Not on a website. So can you tell everyone where they can find you to tap into your sovereign sales gold and the crazy life of a mum of 4?
Yeah. I've got my website, bianca.a.com, but it would be best to find me on Facebook, just Bianca Aiono Robertson, and come and friend request me, come into my high-end sales energetics Facebook group, because like I said, we just actually create genuine friendships and connections. And one of the really greatest compliments that a client once gave was like, Bianca's just like a friend who knows all this stuff and loves to share it with you. And I think that's the invitation, anyone that's in your field, Patchy, is a friend that I just haven't, it's not a stranger, it's just a friend I haven't met.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm coming to join your group.
Yeah.
It has been a freaking joy. Amazing. I've always been in awe of the beauty and the strength of you, and that has just added to my admiration.
Likewise, Patchy. It's such a thrill to be, chatting with you again.
Oh my goodness. I feel like that's been such a beautiful gift of this podcast, because it's given me a vehicle with which to reach out to people that I've known and loved before. It's like I'm singing to you. But you know what I mean? Like to reconnect, because, when I walked away from my business, I walked away in a big way because I needed to at the time. And it's really lovely to pick up the threads again. So
it's awesome, isn't it? Because it's like no time really has passed, except we just have heaps of things to catch up on.
I know, right? I'm like, what? You've had 4 kids since I spoke to you? And you were saying before, you remember my youngest daughter as like a little person. And I'm like, she's moved out of home now.
It's been
crazy. Actually, she may have been the age that the triplets are around about. No, she probably would have been a bit older than that. But little. little. Bless. Thank you so much. And we'll put all the information that we've talked about today in the show notes, of course. And I will see you very soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning into another episode. And I trust you're walking away with inspiration, maybe some chiropractic adjustments of the soul where you've realized perhaps some ways that you're getting in your own way, or something that needs to be healed, or something that's calling to you that your heart really, really wants to birth or create or step into in this second cycle of life. And if that's you, I am throwing my arms wide open and inviting you to check out all of the ways that we could potentially partner together at kyliepatchett.com.au. That's my website for the podcast, and also one-on-one and group programs in midlife mentorship, yoga and breath work in specifically designed menopause classes online, and also, super excitingly, a list of retreats around Australia that I have been blessed to partner with some pretty darn spectacular humans who also help midlife mavens through this transition point. So if you are looking for some support, some community, some tools, just a safe place to actually reconnect to who you are, what you want, and come home to your own power and magnificence, I would love to welcome you into any one of those containers. So head on over to kyliepatchett.com.au, and I will be back in your ears very, very soon.